For guests and visitors, my name is Jim Farmer, president of this club, and I'd like to welcome you all to the 16th meeting of the 50th year of the Dublin Worthington Rotary Club. The invocation and pledge of allegiance will be offered by the one and only Gwen Wixel. Glad you got here.
Our Father, we gather today as Rotarians, mindful of our responsibility. We thank you for the blessings that you've given us this past week. We hope that we can listen and learn from your peaceful and loving ways. Help this country come together. Help our club prosper with its journey. Help us to make this a better place. We gather today and we thank you for the food we're about to take. Bless it for us. In your name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Emily, I don't think, do we have any guests today besides our speakers? I didn't think so. Okay. All right, that would bring us to announcements. Anyone with announcements, please make your way to the podium, please. I know we have a few.
I'm just here in support. I'm just the fingers.
Okay, well, okay. Yeah, and then I've got one after you, so you go first, Sarah.
Okay. The food drive for Worthington Resource Pantry will take place on March 8th. The Hill Shopping is already signed up. We're looking for fresh time. I'm gonna call them. So Nick Lickenhofer will send out a list for volunteers. So we'll need some volunteers for both sites. Thanks.
Emily, you got enough? You're next.
I'm just.
We could still use a couple more volunteers for our COSI weekend this Saturday. So we could use another one or two dinner hosts, and then also one or two more chaperones at COSI. I sent an email out earlier today, and if you're able to help us out, please send me an email or text me. My contact information is in the email I sent out earlier, or you can come talk to me after the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, real quick, on every table, we've got a kind of a summary of our Super Bowling event this past weekend, which was a big success. We raised just over 5,000, which if you subtract about 40, a little over 400 for our social fund, that leaves about 4,600 for our two scholarship funds. I want to thank, obviously, our major sponsors, Cam Taylor, which is Greg Giesler, Osaic, which is our Darnell Perkins, Reichert, courtesy of Roger Johnson, Apple and Hellstat, and Hull and Apple. They're kind of related. They're husband and wife. Let's thank all of that. All right, good job. Without that, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And the winners, if you don't know already, are Songs at the Center, and they gave all their $1,000 to the Worthington Resource Pantry. The Impact Club won the $750, and they're going to use it for their charitable causes. And the Worthington AM Club won $503rd prize, and they're giving all their money to the Worthington Resource Pantry as well. So the pantry was the big winner this year. On each table, there is a list of our sponsors, and on the back of that, I've got a kind of a one-page summary of what we do as Rotarians. And it's easy to forget all that we accomplish every year, but if you look at that summary, you'll see that we do about $60,000 worth of good to our communities, both locally and internationally every year. And Rotary International does $50 million for polio and another $20 million for projects all around the world. So I guess I wanted to make this available so that people can use this when you're going out and searching new members. It's easy to demonstrate what the worth of this club is, and we should all be proud of that. I will now turn it over to Peggy.
I have my sidekick here. Steve is the tech guy. I've told him before, I don't know anything about technology, but we're gonna talk about the night of the races on April 23rd. And Steve is going to show you, the Eventbrite page where you can go and register to attend that evening and also to name a horse or buy a horse. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But let Steve show you here. It's on April 23rd. It starts at 6 o'clock, ends at 9 o'clock. When you walk in, you go upstairs to the Worthington Hills Country Club. And you'll walk in and Rome Marl and a volunteer will scratch your name off if you're registered. And then you can go in, find a seat. There'll be heavy hors d'oeuvres will be served. We've got a cash bar. We've got a 50-50 drawing. We have betting for the horses where you can win money betting on horses. And also, we're gonna have a liquor auction. So there's a lot going on in that 3-hour time. Between each race, we're gonna have 6 races regular, and then at the end, we'll have a 7th race. And between each race, we'll have the liquor auction. So we've got a lot going on. We've got a great committee working on it. Lisa is working on the program. You'll have a program, just like if you go to Wheeling Downs or anywhere else, or if you bet on a horse. Where do they bet on horses around here?
$2.
It's a $2 bet. Thanks, Dick. It's Scioto Downs, okay, it's just like that, except everything's gonna be on a big screen. They're pre-recorded races. And the company that we hired picks out a race. And the race is on, and you're watching 10 horses come into the race. You bet on any of those 10 horses, $2 a bet. And when it's, the race is over and you bet on the winning horse, you win money. And you can also do a trifecta, whatever that is. They'll explain it. But you win more money with that one. And so, what we want you to do is to go to the site. And we're gonna email all of you the site so that you can scan that and go right to Eventbrite and order your tickets. The tickets are $40 a person. And to buy a horse is $20. I do want you to go in early because. What?
Way more than $20.
20 bucks
For a horse.
for a horse?
Yeah, because Jeff has 3 of them.
These are old horses, but we've got, you can go online and you can name your horse, whatever you want to name it. I went to a race last year and my horse was Service Above Self because it was Rotary, but my horse did not win. Okay, is there anything else to show, Steve?
Well, if they're pre-recorded, how do we find out, that means they're already raced, right?
They've raced, but we don't know. We didn't watch the race. Nobody knows the race. Hold on.
So when you get to the website, you've been to a website before, and a lot of you have probably been to Eventbrite before, so you'll go to the site and you'll scroll down. And, it's got details about, the date and time, the location, our refund policy, which is good luck. And then when you get to the bottom, you can buy your tickets for admission, and then you can, I need to change that. It's not buy a horse, it's bet on a horse.
It's name a horse.
Yeah, name a horse, sorry. And then, you'll check out. Peggy, do you want to talk about what the admission gets you? Maybe I missed it.
Yeah, well, we have the heavy hors d'oeuvres is what you get when you go in, and the opportunity to bet and to have a 50-50 drawing, and all the money that we raise is going to our foundation. So we've got sponsors that are here. Darnell's a sponsor. Al Grossman's a sponsor. Anybody else here a sponsor? But we have a lot of, yeah, Steve's a sponsor. And we have other outside entities that are sponsoring this. So, all the money that we raise, again, goes to our foundation. It's a really fun night. If you have two people attend and you name a horse, it's $100, but you're gonna have a lot of fun in the meantime. Now, what we want you to do, what our committee is pleading for you to do, is to email all of your friends, your neighbors, your children over 21, send them that and tell them that you want them to come and enjoy it too. So we need to get the word out so that we have a big turnout. It's limited seating. So you need to get online and do it as fast as you can, invite your kids, whatever. I think I've got 10 people, 10 couples coming. So, we're limited in horses. We have how many horses?
54.
54 remaining horses, and those will go fast. So, does anybody have any questions about the race? Okay,
Is there a limit to how much we can bet?
no.
Yay.
Yes,
521
20,
for the age.
well, it's over 21 to be able to bet the liquor license, or to bet on the liquor and stuff like that.
So what's the deal with the name of horse? I don't understand.
If you name a horse, your name will be in the program. Just like when you go to any racehorse, you get a program. Your name, John, would be in the program, and beside your name would be your horse that you name. So anybody can bet on your horse to win.
So you would get sponsored, John.
Okay, that's what it's mostly sponsored, it's a sponsorship opportunity. Yeah, but the horse isn't gonna be in that pre-recorded horse. race?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
because if your horse is number 3, and if we've got 10 horses, the gates open, the horses take off, rounding the second quarter or whatever, and you're watching number 3, because that's your horse. Anybody that bets on number 3, your horse, if it comes in, they win money.
Right.
And if your horse wins that race, there's 6 races and a special race at the end, remember. If your horse wins, you get a trophy and you get a gift certificate. And also, your horse will be one of the horses in the race number 7. If your horse wins race number 7, you get a $75 gift certificate at Cooper's Hawk at Easton and $50 cash. So you got a lot of ways to win.
$20, wow.
But just for John's benefit, it's a circular track. They start at the starting line, go around and finish at the finish line.
They don't
That
chase a rabbit.
explains the whole thing. Now I understand it.
Can we watch the race before we bet? No.
I just wanna.
Only test.
They have like 50 or so races that's pre-recorded, and they have like a little barrel or something, and they pick a number out of there, and that's the race that runs that particular race.
So the goal is to get 54 people now to be, name a horse. 54. Or
And
can
you know,
name
if you want to buy,
You can
you-
name multiple.
yeah. right, you can buy multiple horses.
I think we put a limit of 5 horses per
Right.
person, because we don't want you to buy all the horses, John. That
Ah,
would.
Limit of 5,
Yeah.
okay.
And the seating, I think we put at what, 135?
130 seats, plus we're gonna have some stand-up tables as well, but there's gonna be 13 tables of 10. And we'll have a few stand-up tables that if you wanna mingle around or whatever. Cash bar, I mean, it's, the 3 hours is gonna go so fast. Last year, I think I don't know whether I told you I won $9, so that was good. Any other questions? Yes.
What's the date again?
April 23rd, it's a Wednesday. We won't have a meeting that day, so it's 6 to 9. And like I said, $100 to take your spouse or partner and to buy a horse. But we need you guys to get the word out to your friends, neighbors, and family.
Yeah, it's a heck of a lot cheaper than going all the way down to Kentucky to bet on horses.
That's right. Right. Anything else, Steve?
I think we got it.
Okay. Pardon me?
You would know.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Peggy, and let's have a big hand for Peggy. This has been a lot of work to put this together. Okay, now we have a sergeant will come and entertain us for 2 minutes. Or 5.
Well. It's either listen to me
Mr. Alan Grossman.
or we're gonna listen to, who would we rather hear, Doug or me? No, our speaker is Mark.
Oh, that's even better. And I won't take too much of your time, Mark.
Actually, Mike, but.
Mike, whatever.
Whatever.
M guy. Hey, everybody. Nice to see you all today. Who's got happy dollars? Who in this room today is happy? Jeff, I'm sorry. Thanks for carrying the pot for me. I know you'll put your $3 max in there because you're the best guy. Jim. I'm happy the Super Bowling is over for another year. Yeah, nice job. Let's give Jim a hand for. It's welcome to work this year, so big hand for Dave. Who else is happy?
I'll be in Florida Saturday for 6 weeks.
Oh, that's happy. I hope it doesn't snow while you're there. There, doesn't snow there. Been doing that in Florida lately. Who else? You're not very happy today, are you? Steve's happy.
I'm happy that Roger's gonna be in Florida.
Who is happy that Mike is here to speak today? Somebody's gotta be happy. Yeah. Who else? Okay. Yeah, well, in that regard then, who's not wearing their Rotary pin today? Yeah, make sure you, raise your hand so Jeff can come see you. And if you didn't take time to get your name badge out of the case back there, that's another one. Whose birthdays are this month? Anybody? I'm not asking how old you're gonna be, it's just whose birthday is this month. So in honor of Charlie's birthday, please, everybody throw a buck in there. Sorry. We like that. If you didn't happen to take time to, help Jim, do this great Super Bowling event this past weekend, or sponsor it, or just throw money up in the air so they got it, please throw $1 in for that. And, this is gonna be a kind of a fast day, right? What national days are today? Anybody know? Anybody? No? Well, number 1, today is National Girls and Women in Sports Day. So if you're not a girl and you haven't ever participated in a girls' sport, please put $1 in. Right? But you can, and women count as girls, okay? So, now, this is an even more special day. It is, believe it or not, National Shower with a Friend Day.
Oh, my God.
So, if you have ever showered with a friend, and don't count spouses as friends, and sometimes they are. Please, if you have ever showered with a friend or a, partner or whatever, please put a buck in.
And it's all X-rated stuff.
And finally, if you have ever been wrong in your life, ever been wrong about anything, put $1 in honor of National Weather Person's Day. Because we know that they have a habit of being wrong, even though they get paid for it. I love the fact that you guys are here on the screen. We're gonna duly authorize Jennifer to get your $3 a piece. Hi, Jerry. Hope you're enjoying the snow in Florida. And finally, what do you call a dog with no legs? Says the guy that's got 10 dogs in his house, right? What do you call a dog with no legs?
Hot dog.
You're the third person to give me that answer, but no, the answer is don't bother, they can't come anyway. Thank you, everybody. Okay, this is a very special day in that we've lined up 2 speakers for today, but we're only going to subject you to one. Through a snafu totally on our end, our speaker, Mr. Mike Anfar from the Ronald McDonald House, actually is here and will speak to us today. But I want to thank Doug Southgate for being willing to pinch hit if necessary. Thank you, Doug. So without further ado, I'd like to turn this over to Mr. Anfar, who will tell us all about the Ronald McDonald House.
Oh, thank you. That was kind of a tough act to follow, that comedian, but anyway, appreciate you letting me come and speak to you today. It's really an honor and privilege for me to be here. And I don't know how familiar any of you are with the Ronald McDonald House. I don't know if any of you have ever been there. But I did want to let you know, first of all, as far as what I personally do at the house, I've been volunteering there now. It'll be 9 years this April. When I first started there, I went in on a Saturday and I thought, well, maybe I'll volunteer maybe one day, maybe I'll volunteer maybe one day a month or so. Then literally at the end of the first shift, I said, I'll tell you what, I'll do both Saturdays and Saturday afternoons. Then it became Saturday all day, then Sunday part of it as well, and just kind of morphed into more and more and more. And then over the last couple of years, it's developed where kind of my specialty has been is giving tours down there. So I give tours to, like just yesterday, I was there volunteering, but then they asked me to give a tour to a group from young professionals. But I give tours all the time. And now it's also developed the last couple of years where I go out and speak on behalf of the house to different groups like yourself. So again, not sure what any of you know about the house, but very quickly, as far as the way these houses got started. Right now, today, there's about 390 Ronald McDonald houses around the world. And to kind of jump around for just a second, we're not owned by McDonald's. That's kind of a misconception there, where we get a nice chunk of money from them every year, but we're not owned by McDonald's. Anyway, the way the houses got started back in 1969, which I know is way before any of us were born. But anyway, back in 1969, there was a professional football player by the name of Fred Hill, played for the Philadelphia Eagles. I love football, both college and pro. Never heard of Fred Hill. He will not be in the Hall of Fame. But that being said, Fred Hill had a daughter by the name of Kim who had cancer at the time, and she was being treated in Philadelphia. And over a couple of years, he met a lot of families that were sleeping in the hallways or in their cars, wherever, just to be near their kids. And over that period of time, he was talking to his daughter's oncologist, and the doctor said, boy, wouldn't it be great, Fred, if there was a place for families to stay for free when their children are being treated? Fred Hill said, that's a great idea. So he went to some local businesses. They gave him a little bit of money. He went to the Eagles. They gave him a little bit of money. And then finally what he did, by then it was about 1972, he went to the local McDonald's franchisee. And the guy said, I'll tell you what, we're coming out with a brand new item called Shamrock Shakes. What we'll do is we'll give you a portion of the proceeds for a period of time from the Shamrock Shakes if you call your house Ronald McDonald House. Fred Hill basically said, you give me the money, I'll call it whatever. So the first house opened in Philadelphia in 1974. And then the first house opened here in Columbus in 1982. Kind of a side note on that, a couple of years ago, I was in Los Angeles for a niece's wedding, and I toured a couple of Ronald McDonald houses out there. I walked in the house, and the woman gave me a tour. I noticed there was a glass case with a football jersey on it, said Hill on the back of it. I said, is that the Fred Hill? She said, yeah, he's retired, lives out here now, and is very active with the house. And I said, well, I mentioned him in my tours as far as how I got the houses started and everything. And she said, you tell me the story, what you think, how it got started, because she said, we know exactly how it did. So I told her the story. She said, you're absolutely right. So I thought, yes, for years I've been telling people that. So that is the accurate story. So I said the first house opened here in Columbus in 1982. It was on 18th Street, right next to Nationwide Children's Hospital. It was just a small little house, totally different than it is today. And the fact that, as an example, they closed it at 9 o'clock. Families had to be in there at 9 o'clock. They had I believe it was a woman. They had a woman that lived in the house. She was like a house mother to them. It was a much different than from what they have now. That being said, it's grown to where just, in fact, about a year ago, we had another expansion to where at this point now we actually have 206 rooms in the Ronald McDonald House here in Columbus. That's 206 rooms for the families. And that being said, a lot of that is, well, because they added 84 new rooms. As I tell people, not jokingly, but it's like good news, bad news. They've added 84 new rooms. It's like, good news, they added 84 new rooms. Bad news, they added 84 new rooms because we needed 84 new rooms. The house is not usually, in fact, it hasn't been completely full with the 206 rooms at this point. It's kind of built more for the future. But as most of you know, Nationwide Children's Hospital just keeps growing and growing and growing. So good or bad, we have to kind of grow along with the hospital. And along with the 206 family rooms, we've got multiple rooms in there as far as playrooms for kids, a full workout, full exercise room that was actually donated by the Columbus crew, but all kinds of things for the families to do there besides the 206 rooms. The only requirements for families to stay at the house here in Columbus, and every house throughout the world, they're independent. That's why technically the name of the house here is Ronald McDonald House Charities of Central Ohio, LLC, but they're all pretty much the same. The only requirements for a family to stay here at this one is that they have to have a child at Nationwide Children's Hospital being treated or at any of the NICU units, any of the local Franklin County hospitals, and have to live at least 35 miles away. I know when I first started there, their requirement was outside of Franklin County. Then I think at some point they realized half of Dublin is Delaware County, half of Pickerington is Fairfield. And the whole idea of the houses is to try to make it convenient for families that have a long distance to go to stay there. Those are literally the only requirements for a family to stay there. They do run criminal background checks and everybody that stays there, as well as all the volunteers and so forth that are involved there. But it's very simple. The hospital puts in a request, they stay there. The average stay for the families there is about 7 days. There are some families that are there just for a day. The longest since I've been there, we had a family earlier this past year. I've got to get used to saying last year, but this past year, they were there for just under 3 years. They were from Florida. And when I tell friends of mine or different people that, they look at me like I'm either nuts or making it up. I wish I was. But the families that are down there are, I can't tell you how amazing they are. They do whatever they have to do to take care of their kids. So, and we've got families, I've met families there from literally every state in the country, as well as pretty much every major country that you can think of. I know on numbers last year, they had families from 47 different states that stayed there, as well as I want to say 15 or 16 different countries. But I've met people from literally all over the world. And I'm not plugging Nationwide Children's Hospital, but I had no idea what that hospital was until I started volunteering there. And the fact that they're transferring families there from London, England, from Spain, from all over the world. In fact, a few years ago, it was kind of interesting one day, because we've all got, most of us, I've got an app, a transit app, because I know about 3 or 4 years ago, I was at the front desk, which is where I volunteer at. When I'm there, I was at the front desk and I was speaking to somebody from Saudi Arabia, somebody from Spain, and somebody from, I believe it was China. And I worked my way around the front desk, kept switching apps to talk to them in different languages. It was like being at the UN that day. But as I said, they're just amazing families. And as far as numbers of people there, it kind of varies. But to give you an idea, yesterday when I was volunteering at the front desk, I know that the 2 staff members that are always at the front desk to check people, when they were saying today, they have 31 families checking in today. That's kind of a high number for any one day during the week. But it's one of those cases though, where these families, when you go there, you have no idea what they're going through. They seem upbeat and happy. I know, in fact, yesterday there's a family staying there, and the little boy's name is Nathan. Nathan's about 4 years old, and he's become almost like our mascot there. He has more. I wish I had half his energy, but he was running around the lobby with his mom, and his mom kind of chasing after him yesterday. And he's walking up to everybody, going, "Hi, my name's Nathan." And then I was back in our kitchen. He's giving everybody candy back there, and it was kind of cute. There was an Amish family sitting in the lobby there. He walked over, introduced himself to every one of them, and took one of their hats and put it on. But those are the kind of little things that we see around there that kind of make our day around there. I did want to tell you just a couple quick stories about some of the families that I've met there. And I will tell you this, I've had some of the best experiences in my life there, and I've had some of the worst experiences. I mean, like the worst, as far as with families that what they're going through there. And I have never been trained on how to work with people going through times that are the worst that you can possibly imagine. But the first story I tell you is because I promised the person I would tell them, plus it's a good example of how important this house is to the families. This was a few years ago. I was near the front desk, and one of the staff members, she was a new staff member at the time, but she called me over, and there was a young man standing there, and she said, "He's interested in volunteering. Could you talk to him about it?" And I said, "Sure." So I introduced myself. He introduced himself. He said, "Yeah," he said, "We're checking out right now." But he said, "I want to come back and volunteer." He said, "This is the only way that I can repay the house." And I said, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, my daughter died yesterday across the street. She was 14. So I gave him a hug. And I said, "Would you like to talk?" He said, "Yes, I would." So we sat down on the couch, and he said, "That's my wife over there." He said, "She's not ready to talk yet." And I said, "I understand." So and I cry very easily because I can see these people every time I talk about them. But he said, he showed me a lot of pictures on his phone, some that have been taken just before they stopped life support. Early in the conversation, he said, "You have to promise me that you will tell people how important this house is to families." And I said, "Oh, I will." And we sat there for a good half hour, and a little bit later, he said, "No, you have to promise me." To the end of the conversation, he said, "Promise me you will tell everybody how important this house is to the families." And I said, "I will." So ever since then, every time I talk to groups, whether it's giving tours down there or to groups like this, I tell that story partly because I promised to this man that I would tell that story, and partly because it's a good example of how important these houses are to these families. It's a place where they can, because we offer everything that they need. They literally come with their clothes, and it's not a financial issue necessarily, although I can't imagine what it'd be like to stay someplace for 2 years and pay motel bills or whatever, or hotel bills. But every floor's got a laundry room, everything there is completely free. And they come to the front desk, we have because of donations, we have everything that they need for laundry. And at the front desk, we've got toothpaste, toothbrushes, deodorant, tampons, like literally anything that you can think of, chargers for phones. So that the whole idea is take care of their children, and we'll try to take care of everything else. I kind of digress, but it's just, that's where we want these families just to worry about we want them to take care of their children. We'll try to take care of everything else. But that's an example of how important it is to these families. And I tell people also in that regard, as a volunteer, I get paid more than any of you guys will ever make, because at least once or twice a day, I'll get a hug or a thank you from a family that they are so appreciative of what goes on down there, because they don't have to worry about anything. We try to provide everything that they need. We're literally across the street from Nationwide, so they can walk back and forth, or there is a shuttle if they need to take the shuttle back and forth. The other thing I always tell people is that every time I leave there, it prioritizes everything. I tell friends of mine or different people, don't tell me you're having a bad day unless it's something serious. And a good example of how this place prioritizes everything, this happened to me again a few years ago. It was on a Saturday when I was down there volunteering. We were really busy. I'd given, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 tours. We had a lot of donations come in that I was putting away. It was just a really busy day. I was feeling tired for myself. I was walking through the kitchen, and a woman waved me over who I didn't know, but she waved me over and she said, "How you doing?" And I said, "I'm really tired. I'm ready to lay down and take a nap or something." She said, "Yeah, I've seen you go by a lot of times." And I can imagine, I was feeling sorry for myself. So I said to her, I said, "How are you doing?" She said, "Well, all right." She said, "My granddaughter had both of her legs amputated yesterday." So I thought to myself, don't feel sorry for yourself. And that's why I tell people, every time I leave there, I think to myself, you know what? I've got a few dollars in the bank. I've got my health, the roof over my head. What else do you really need? You know, friends and family and so forth. But so at that place, definitely, it puts everything, prioritizes everything. Another quick story I'd like to tell you about a family. We had a family, they were there for, well, almost 2.5 years from Salt Lake City. And if I say a name, it's because they've said it. So I would never say their last name, but the dad's name was Sean, and the little girl's name was Zariah. They called her Z. And to jump ahead, they're doing great, because in fact, he sends me pictures every once in a while of Zariah, but of Z. But over that 2.5 year period, Sean and I got very, very close. We talked a lot. And he was one of these kind of guys, I don't know why, just early on we developed this habit. Every time I see him, we'd fist bump each other. And we got, like I said, just talked about a lot of things. And I'll never forget, we have a big holiday party every year for the volunteers. And I was walking out of the kitchen after the party, and Sean was walking towards me, and I went to fist bump him, and he pushed it aside and started hugging me, which he had never done. And he started crying, and I thought, what's going on here? And as he's crying, I backed off. I said, "Sean, what's the matter?" He looked at me, he said, "Mike, we're going home." And that was after 2.5 years. So so Sean and I were standing on the hallway, and I said, "Sean, there's my Christmas present. I don't need anything else." Because it was just, again, and at that point, I had never seen Z, had never seen his daughter, but we get extremely close down there. And in fact, it's kind of cute. And every once in a while, he'll send me videos with that daughter and the other daughter, Raven, from Salt Lake City. And in the background, the girls are yelling, "Hi, Uncle Mike, hi, Uncle Mike." I've never met these girls, but we just become a giant family down there. And finally, one other quick story to give you an example of how important it is to these families, or when we feel we've really done something. There was a family down there, again, this was about 6 years ago. The little boy's name was Billy. Billy was 4 at the time. His dad's name was Bill. They were from Southeast Ohio. But Billy at 4 had already had 3 bone marrow transplants, which I don't know if you know what those are, very, very serious. And he'd had 3 of them already by the age of 4. And we have a big Easter egg hunt there every year there for the kids. And the weekend after the Easter egg hunt, Billy and his dad came at the front desk, and Billy said, "Mike, I got pictures." So he was showing me pictures of the Easter egg hunt. He was all excited, and finally, now he's 4 years old. He started jumping up and down. He said, "Mike, I got to play. And I thought, well, that's wonderful. But I thought, why is a 4-year-old excited to play? And Bill, his dad, looked at me and said, "No, you don't understand. He had not played with other kids for 2.5 years because of his immune system." Right. So I thought to myself, this is something we have to provide for this little boy, just to be a boy, not to do anything special. And that's the term when we have kids down there, sometimes I'll say, "I'm glad you're healthy, but appreciate your health." Because again, that little boy he just got to do what kids should be able to do, without even thinking about it. And when he first did it, when he was jumping up and down, I thought, why, what's the big deal here? Until he told me what was going on there. So it is, as I said, it's an amazing place. There are all kinds of, and I don't want to go into all kinds of details because the time I asked, but there's all kinds of opportunities for volunteers down there. And I asked if it was all right, just to kind of mention it very briefly. But there are all kinds of opportunities for volunteers down there, both as individuals, volunteers. And I tell people it's probably one of the best, well, I know it's the best place to volunteer at, but among other things, they're kind of unique in that as far as individual volunteers, you pick and choose when you do what you do. We have volunteers helping in the kitchen. We have volunteers cleaning rooms. We have volunteers doing all kinds of things. So you pick and choose what you do, when you do it, how often you do it. You don't have to do it any number of hours you can do. You don't have to become an idiot like me and be there all the time, but you can do it as often as you want to. So there's that. And then we also have opportunities as far as providing meals. Because again, as I said, we provide meals. What the families are guaranteed, they're told, are guaranteed 2 hot meals Monday through Friday and 1 hot meal Saturday and Sunday. We try to get more than that. Other than that, we've got coffee going all the time, snacks all over the place because of donations all over. But the meal opportunities are great. In fact, there are, I think it's 4 different Rotary clubs around Columbus are currently doing the meals, but there's meal opportunities down there. So we have a lot of opportunities for volunteers. And finally, I did want to say, if you're ever interested, be more than happy to give any or all of you a tour down at the house. People come in there, they, again, of course, now you have kind of a feel for it, but have no idea what all goes on down there. And what we have, as I said, we have things like an indoor tree slide that was provided by the Columbus Blue Jackets. In fact, a funny story on that, earlier this year, I gave several of the Blue Jacket players a tour down there. And without seeing it, it's hard to describe it, but it's an indoor tree slide. And so several of the players were coming down the tree slide. And afterwards, I said, Mike, if you ever take pictures of us or show this, we will kill you. So, because it was fun to see these big guys coming down this little indoor slide. But we have an indoor tree slide. We have an exercise room, music room, full library, all kinds of things for the families to do. A room called the Princess Room, all kinds of things like that. So again, it's become my passion. And it's a place where I tell people, if you come down there and if you don't get passionate about it, then I really don't want to know you. And again, just one final note on that part, then I'll wrap this up. But I don't know how many of you watch Channel 4 in the morning with Pat Barnes and Monica Day, and I'm not pushing any one channel over another because that got me in trouble a couple of years ago at a golf outing. But Matt, but the 2 of them are really, really, really big supporters of the house. They do a lot. Like Matt Barnes has a volleyball tournament or a volleyball thing game every year as a fundraiser. But I know 3 or 4 years ago, we were a fundraiser and we were talking, and I said, Matt, how long did it take you to get excited and involved the house? He said, how about you? And I said, oh, about 10 minutes. He said, it took me 5. And that's what it is. So you walk around and you see these families and you hear their stories. And like I said, it's just, you instantly get hooked on what's going on here. Especially when you see the kids and the moms and dads. And again, with what they're doing from literally all over the world, they're here in Columbus. And the fact that we've got the world's largest, although as I tell everybody, we're the world's largest Ronald McDonald House, although all we get for that is we have to brag about it. We don't get anything for it. And what I did say too, when I said earlier, everything is literally free in the house. I mean, like there's nothing that costs money. We've even got an ATM machine that Huntington Bank had donated a couple of years ago when they made a big donation. Somebody came at that day, they converted that into a PlayStation. The only thing we have that costs in the house, we've got 2 Coke machines, which is, I tell people, they're broke half the time. But anyway, other than that, everything is totally free for the families. So I really appreciate you guys letting me come and speak to you today about the house. I did bring, if you're interested, some brochures there about the house. You know, we're not trying to push on anything, but brochures there about the house. I don't know at this point if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, so how does a house raise money then?
Well, it actually through a lot of different ways. In fact, the full-time, the house, we always jokingly say, but there's truth there. If it wasn't for volunteers, the house would shut down. There's hundreds of volunteers now. There's maybe about 150 that are like there all the time. But of the full-time staff, the majority of them are doing fundraising things. So they have things like, as an example, we have a big golf outing every year that they have it's the same day at 4 different country clubs. And it raises quite a bit of money. They have different fundraising events. They have this thing called Handbag Hullabaloo, where they have 4 or 5 of those scattered around central Ohio they're just different fundraising events. I will tell you, one of the things that brings in a lot, well, 2 other things that bring in money. One is pop tabs and so forth. that, tabs from a pop can or beer can or whatever, but from a can. Those, they actually take them to a recycler and they get so much per pound, and that brings in about $15,000 a year from these tabs. The other kind of big thing that people don't think about, and I'm not pushing McDonald's, I'm really not. But at McDonald's, and then unfortunately, they don't ask enough because we make even more, but they have a roundup thing that where if you round up your bill, it goes to the local Ronald McDonald House. There's about 145 McDonald's in central Ohio, that cover this house here. And that roundup program brings in just under $1 million a year, just nickels, dimes and quarters. And I get frustrated when I do occasionally go through McDonald's and they don't ask me to round up. I'll go, would you round up? And I had a kid the other day say, I don't know how to round up. And I said, would you get the manager? And I'll tell, please round up. So there's all kinds of things going on. Obviously, personal donations. We do have things like each room, organization or family or whatever can buy the room, and it's a $10,000 donation. So there's patio bricks.
A lot of corporate support.
We have a lot, we get a lot of support, both financially as well as, just yesterday, in fact, the Columbus Blue Jackets wives and girlfriends were down there serving lunch. But we get a lot of support from the Columbus crew. We get a lot of support from Ohio State University. Ohio University has a big dance thing every year called the Bopathon that raises about $40,000 a year. Just a lot of individual things, families that have stayed there. And as far as the money part of it, the house, it costs roughly $100 a day for a family to stay there. I guess I didn't even mention this early on, the families are charged $0 to stay there. I mean, like nothing. They have to pay anything. They're asked if they would like to make a donation. And I know from being at the front desk for 9 years, when they check out, it's a very soft ask. The family service manager, the person checking them out, all they literally say is, would you like to make a donation? One time, that's it. But the average, I know I heard a few months ago, I was at a golf at a fundraiser, and the average donation there from the families is $7. So the rest of it has to be made up from outside things. So, there's just corporate sponsors, individual sponsors, across the board. They have fundraiser things going on almost all the time because they need money to keep it open. So, yes, sir.
You mentioned that individuals come from around the world. I was wondering how people become aware of the Ronald McDonald House and then how they gain access to using those.
Sure, the way that works is that if they don't know about it already, the hospital, Nationwide Children's Hospital, their social worker, the person that works with them, will tell them, if you need a place to stay or whatever, they'll tell them about the Ronald McDonald House. In turn, the hospital has to put through the request. Because if heaven forbid, if you would just call them and say you would need a room, they'd say the hospital, and it's probably for everybody's protection. We have to make sure they really are being at the hospital, because it just happened yesterday. I was there. I happened to answer the phone at the front desk, and because I think in it's not phone books anymore, but it's listed in some ways. It looks where it could be a place for either people to stay for free or get free food. So somebody called yesterday and they said, could we come in for lunch? And no. So anyway, that's how the connection is made, is through the hospital. And the occasional time where either we've been completely full, which hasn't happened since the expansion, but it did happen before the expansion where we were completely full. The hospital does have some connections with a few of the local hotels where they get discounted rates. But there again, let's say you're going to be there for 3 weeks or 4 weeks at $50, $60, $70 a night. That adds up, let alone food and everything else. I have no idea on this part of it, but I can only imagine how many families leave there totally bankrupt. Because I don't care what kind of insurance you've got, you're still spending a lot of money. Yes, sir.
You call it a house, but it sounds like with 206 rooms, it's a hotel.
Well, you know what, here's the thing, it is like a hotel, but I guarantee you, if you talk to families there, they would call it a house, because we get so close to these families. Example of that, we have a family that's been coming there for years from North Carolina. And that the mom and her kids come usually once, if not twice a year, for a football game at OSU. And when they do come, they just stay with me. In fact, a couple of years ago, I gave her a key to my place. We've become a giant family there. I mean, and it's interesting because you will see families from around the world will start talking in the lobby or in the kitchen, because all of a sudden they can empathize. And I always tell people I can sympathize, but I can't empathize with these people. But so it becomes like a house. And I know, in fact, nobody wants to stay at the Ronald McDonald House, because you're there for that reason. But a couple of years ago, we had a little girl, she had a heart transplant, and they were there for a while. We do have all kinds of really great playrooms and things for the kids all the time. They have bingo every Friday night for the families where everybody will win before the night's over, but they were checking out, and I said, the girl, aren't you excited to go home? She said, no. And her mom said, what do you mean? She said, I want to stay here, it's more fun here. So, because we do have all kinds of fun play things. So, yes, it's like a hotel, but they're treated like family. I mean, because it's hugging and talking and like I said, you'll be standing, and 90% of people I don't know their names. It just, and I don't know their children's illness or whatever, the staff people know that kind of stuff. But we just become a giant family there. So in that regard, it's like a house.
So how you mentioned 4 Rotary clubs are involved. How would a Rotarian club get involved if they wanted to?
Well, I've got to go into detail. I didn't want to go into too many details, but I'd be more than happy to. What you want to do is, because there's a couple different types of opportunities. As I said, you can go as individuals, you go to the website, they bring you in for an interview, blah, blah, blah. Then you choose what you want to do. You can also come in as a group. And again, the best thing to do is either you can go to the website and contact that way, or Lisa's got my contact number. I can connect with the right person. But a group can come in, like yesterday, as an example, was a group, they were called Young Professionals. And they came in, there was about 13 of them. And actually, in fact, what we did, I gave them all a tour, then they split them in half, and half clean rooms and half clean common areas. So that's an example. The meal part of it, we've got a program now, it's called Team Cuisine, where you make a donation of $350. That's either for breakfast or lunch. And then we have a chef on staff that she gets all the ingredients, puts together the menu, then your group comes in, and that's what the 4 of the Rotary clubs are doing. Then they come in and then they put together the meal with the chef doing showing them what to do. And the kind of nice thing about that is it's a buffet line where families are coming through, and so you do have some contact with the family. So that's another opportunity as far as a group like yourself.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. That was very interesting. Okay, I think we have a raffle.
We do, and this week's, pot is $54. Mr. Butterfield.
I'd be glad to do that. Okay.
Oops. You only pick one.
Yes.
Sorry. 7155.
I was gonna say, put them on. Okay.
And 297 in the big pot.
Okay. Okay, can I pick 2? And it's the last 4 numbers?
Yeah.
7159. 7159. Hey! Yeah.
Good luck.
Close, but doesn't. Well done. Okay, then, to wrap up, let's stand and do the 4-way test. Of the things that we think, say, and do. First.
Is it the truth?
Second.
Is it fair?
Third.
Will goodwill and better friendships.
Fourth.
Oh, yeah, that's what's all concerned.
We are adjourned.
Yeah.
I will leave it for.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, if it just kind of came up, you don't need to take it, but I do have 2 sets of brochure. If anybody wants a brochure, you don't have to, but there are some brochures.
And does this have information about donating time and money?
Yeah, the volunteer.
Okay, so, because I think,
Saved in the last.
that QR code. You
okay.
Yeah.
No, this is the newest.
I wouldn't be too good.
I think That's about how many workers you don't work. Okay, yeah. And if all that's good, I'd like to have. And they like. Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah. We're gonna go. But I always tell people, I've done it. You're not gonna do it. Because once it's done, whatever, 12:30. And if they're coming to lunch, 24. Well, I didn't want to. That's why when I find I would be shocked if I can't get my committee. Next week, next month, I think I'll have. That would be super, actually. Yeah, and I was. Oh, sure, yeah. No, if that meal thing, I know the four Rotary companies, they do it. They do it. I think what you do is probably. Yeah.